everyone, I'm Amy and this is my own special unicorn, Maggie, and together we're Think-A-Themer. Today we're looking at a game from Kickstarter called Unicorn Fever, which is actually a re-implement of a game called Horse Fever, and is essentially horse racing, but with unicorns and with lots more magic involved. Unicorn Fever is a game by Horrible Guild, and the designers are Lorenzo Silva and Lorenzo Sorrentino. And if you don't recognize those names, I'm sure you recognize some of the games that they've been involved in. Obviously, Horse Fever, The King's Dilemma, Railroad Inc. They worked together on Steam Park, and Lorenzo Silva was involved in Potion Explosion. So they have a lot of different games, different styles of games under their belt. Before we get stuck into what the game is all about, I just wanted to mention some of the differences between the retail version and the deluxe version that was backed on Kickstarter before we start to show you any of the components. So obviously there are two boxes here. One is the bonus box to store all of the additional content in. There's a little expansion that came with the deluxe edition, which is 3 new unicorns that you can swap in with the core unicorns in the game. And then there are some component upgrades. So there are differences in terms of the starter player token, which was cardboard and is now metal. The coins likewise were cardboard and are metal in this edition. And there are the gems, which are actually little plastic gems instead of cardboard gems. The victory point tokens are the cute little 4-leaf clovers. And the biggest difference when we show you the gameplay of this game is that the very small unicorns have been upgraded to very, very large unicorns.
Awesome unicorns. Yeah.
So quite a difference in scale. And actually, I just love the deluxe components of this game, particularly the unicorns. Obviously the little horn that's on my head, another little addition in the Kickstarter pack. And the board has also been replaced, you can still use the core board, but there's also a material version, cloth version, which is available as well, which takes up quite a lot of table space.
A large table for it.
But it does make the game much bigger, especially if you have a big group of people playing, because this game does play up to 6 people. So if you're all crowded around, it would very much help. So if you are looking to get this game, those are the main differences between the retail and the more deluxe version. There's also a drawer bag and a little cauldron for you to keep all your money in, and a little bottle opener. And actually,
why not?
What this triggers is a conversation about the subject matter, because we received this game. I backed this game because it just looked like fun. It was a great campaign. It was really exciting to see things get unlocked, and as they added more and more to it, it was just one of those really fun Kickstarters to be a part of. But when we received it and I read the rule book, and the first thing I said to Maggie is, oh, this is gambling.
It's straight up gambling.
Straight up gambling, and not well disguised at that.
At all.
And, and then, Maggie read the rule book and said the same thing, because there's concepts in this like, betting on a win or a place. That is very much, of course, because it's come from the horse racing game, it's very much still using that language. And what was interesting is going into the game, I was a bit hesitant because I had this feeling of, well, it's a very childish theme.
Yeah, the design and the artwork is kind of very colorful and appealing.
Yeah, and how do I feel about
audiences would be attracted to
teaching younger people to gamble, essentially. But the inclusion of the bottle opener, and this is what I think is key in this conversation, is almost a signal of who this game is targeted towards. It's not children.
I don't know many juice boxes that you need to open with a bottle opener,
The game is 14 plus, but it's clearly targeted at the beer in one hand, kind of light-hearted game to play while you're drinking. So Maggie, why don't you talk about the theme?
Yeah. So in Unicorn Fever, you are all, as the rulebook calls it, somewhat despicable people who are benefiting of gambling or betting on these beautiful unicorns who can't resist themselves when the rainbow appears. As part of that, it's because it's a magical realm. There's not just going to be the favorites and the odds based on that, but there's also going to be a bit of magical tampering that will happen with the unicorn. So all players will be involved in either helping or hindering different unicorns, depending on what your personal agenda is.
These unicorns are going to move along the rainbow towards the finish line in line with their odds and the cards that are turned over. So once the race begins, each one of these movement cards is going to be flipped over, and then you are going to move each unicorn according to the number that's next to them. Obviously, within the movement cards, a unicorn, so the yellow unicorn is the favorite to win. So El Sparco Dorado is the favorite to win in this race. The numbers will be higher at the top of the card, and probably they've balanced that deck to make sure that, the lower the odds is probably a bit more random in terms of whether you get a good move or a not so good move. But what's interesting is there are two phases to the movement. So we flip a card, you move the unicorns along, and then there are also two die. And the two die get rolled, and then at the end of the movement, the two unicorns that are identified by the colors on the die go for a sprint, and they get to move one more space. And so that brings in a bit of more of randomness into the racing. So you think that the favorite might win, but if you continuously roll a unicorn in that sprint phase who is lower ranked, they might actually, sneak forward and win the game, which is what happens in horse racing.
Yeah, you can't
ever
fully predict.
Nothing is fully predictable.
Who's gonna win.
And so on your turn or before the race, so in a single game, there will be 4 races. And before each race, you are trying to fix the race. You are trying to manipulate the unicorns that you want to win and really slow down the ones that you don't want to win. And you do that by using magic. So at the beginning of the game, you've got 5 cards in your hand that have either positive attributes. So if I was to play this spicy impulse card and secretly before the race place it under Cinnamon Carmine, the orange unicorn, then at the beginning of the race, when this is revealed right before they start their movement, it says that this unicorn gets to start 1 ahead. And so you can imagine that now the odds for that unicorn have been manipulated, and he might actually win when we didn't think he was going to win. Likewise, there are cards that reduce the odds of the unicorn before the race starts, moving them down in that ladder. There are ones that make them start 1 card backwards, or take the lowest number that's revealed on the movement. So there are lots of ways that you can manipulate the race. And what's so great about this process is that everybody does that in secret. So on your turn, you get the opportunity to take an action based on turn order, which is dictated by whoever has this shiny little carrot as first player. And the different actions that you can take are shown here on the board, where you can place a bet in order for a unicorn to come first or to place. You can place a bet for the unicorn just to win, which gives you some bonus victory points if you do win. You can take the first player starter token, get some coin, and also place some magic under one of the unicorns. You can take a contract card which have lasting benefits throughout the game. So that might give you certain bonuses if a colored unicorn wins, or it might allow you to break the rules of the game in some way to, secretly view what's going on underneath the pile, all different things. And there's lots of variability in terms of those cards for each game. And the last one is, of course, to put some magic underneath one or more of the unicorns from a positive or negative perspective. So when you're placing a bet, it works very much like it does in the real world.
Like gambling.
Just like gambling.
It's exactly gambling.
With these beautiful $1 coins or the 5s, 20s or 50s, when you take one of these actions, you get to take either the place marker, so betting that they'll come first, second or third, or you get to take the winning, they will definitely come first marker. And when you do that, you say, I want to take the action where I pick a winner. I get to take the orange, which I've, put a winning card underneath now. And then I will place the amount of money that I want to bet. So I'll bet $3 that unicorn will win the race. This particular one comes with a bonus 2 victory points. I will get $3 times the odds of that unicorn to win, just like in real life. And at the moment, the orange unicorn is quite high. He's ranked second and he's a ×3. So I'll get my money ×3 returned to me. I will get 5 victory points for winning, for picking the winner, and then the 2 bonus victory points. If I had have placed a place bet, then I would simply just get ×2 or double my money back, as well as 3 victory points. The other interesting component of this game is that at the end of each race, you have to pay for the victory points that you currently have. And so there's a tension between how much you're going to bet and having enough to pay off those victory points, because otherwise, if you run out of money in this game, you have to take on a loan.
Shady loan.
A shady loan from is it a leprechaun?
I believe so.
A leprechaun, shady loan from a leprechaun, which gives you $20, but you need to pay back $25. And so, there's a lesson for the kids out there. Stay away from shady leprechauns giving away money.
If you don't pay it back, no one breaks your legs, that we're aware of. But you have less of a chance of winning the game. Yeah.
Winning the game, yeah. So I want to talk about the gameplay at the moment, because when you read the rule book, I really think it plays down the fun of this game. When you read it, it's like, okay, so I'm bidding on things to win, and it works just like in real life with a win or a place, and then I get money back. But the racing component, I don't think you can understate how fun that is.
It's quite fun.
It's
It's quite exciting and exhilarating, yeah.
And again, we're in lockdown, so it's just the two of us. Yeah. But even with just the two of us, as soon as that first race started, my instinct was to start calling the race. So, it's like Melody Sweet is in the lead, Cinnamon Carmen coming up the side. It's just, it's instinctual to do that. And I think that if there were more people, that would be even more fun. People
that would be fantastic.
Or with a few drinks, people taking it in turns to really call the race and implement the magic cards that, are holding people back, and then everyone kind of betting on the winner. This is replicating that feeling that you get when you're watching a live race, and it does it, that part of it is done really well, I think.
And it happens really quickly, just like an actual race. There's all this lead up and build up and all the betting, and then the actual race just kind of happens really quickly, and it's very exciting, and then it's done. It's like, okay, and then it's like the cleanup phase and then the setting up again. So that replicates the real life gambling and betting on horses experience quite closely. And we often said, even though it's technically unicorns, it's not horses, often when we were explaining the rules, we would say horses, because it's a very, very thinly guised.
It is very thinly guised.
Over the top of it.
But I don't know how you felt, but at first we were like, ethically, how does this sit with me? With the theme being overlaid on gambling, and also, particularly in Australia, there's been a lot of backlash about the treatment of horses and whether we should be
all animals involved in racing.
Greyhounds it's been banned in a lot of places, and all of that kind of stuff that is important and going on in the world. And then to bring this in as some light fun, it was kind of sat a bit strangely with us at first, and we were like, I don't know how I feel about getting this out. But actually, I think that even though the betting mechanism is there, it's, you know, people are exposed to that anyway. Like betting on something to win or to place is like very common, but also it's obscured enough by, I think, by the magic and the take that between players and the like sneakiness of it all, that I think it's, you know, you're manipulating the race so much that actually it's not just a straight gamble, it's also strategy. Like you're doing something to like, you're kind of managing not just your money, but your cards, your abilities, your contracts, your the way that you're kind of sneakily placing cards in secret.
You're also trying to predict what other players are manipulating and in which direction. So if I see that Amy is putting a lot of cards on their Cinnamon Carmen and, you know, she's just placed a win bet and the place bet is still available, I might go, oh, that's probably a pretty, like, I've seen a lot of action happening over there, which I imagine, I've never been backstage of a horse race scenario, but I imagine it's probably similar when there's like those stables whispers of like you heard it of from the, So I feel like that replicates that quite well. I still, again, I'm like, this is so random. It's a random game. It's luck. I lose every time by a lot. So I don't know. It's just Amy's really good at gambling. She's just really good at a lot of.
Well, you know what? I actually hate gambling in real life because I hate losing money. It doesn't matter how much it is. I just like hate. Yeah, I hate that. But in this game, I'm probably more likely to go a bit like all in. And like see how it plays out because I'm not as wed to it. Yeah, I think we enjoyed it more than we expected to.
Yeah,
I'm unsure at this point whether we'll keep it in our collection. We were talking about this a lot while we were playing, that we know exactly our friends that would enjoy this, the ones that are not really gamers, but, you know, do enjoy to have a drink and something to focus on, and like are very extroverted, so would enjoy like the calling of the race and the take that element of like, you know, messing up other people's unicorns that they've gambled on. So I'm kind of intrigued to keep it long enough to see how it plays with them. But then there are other games that they love as well, that like Saboteur is a great example because it's the same kind of you know, take that, who's there yelling at each other. Yeah, it's very light in terms of gameplay, but quite complex in terms of the social dynamic. And I think that's kind of how this would play out. But I'm just wondering about like, is this better than the Bonanza or the Saboteur or the Colt Express, the games that they really
like?
There's
a lot less brain power with this. So even for people, if you have particularly a party type environment where you have a mix of gamers and non-gamers, anyone can get into this because it's a theme that everybody kind of understands. It's gambling, and because there's a fair bit of luck. There's no such thing as I'm going to, you know, play this multiple times and figure out the winning strategy. There's none of that. It's you know, there's going to be some elements that you can control, but by and large, it's just you having a bit of a fun time, and you're kind of looking at, oh my goodness, you know, who ended up winning, who ended up getting played some really nasty cards that then really hindered their performance, and that's really what it is. Like that's really the extent of it.
That's it. So that's Unicorn Fever, one that we are a little unsure about, but we feel like there might be the type of gamer in our groups that may enjoy this. So it'll probably hang around for a little bit. And a note on seeking out the deluxe version, I would say that it's worth it for the coins, the gems, definitely the unicorns. If you can get these are fabulous, and there is no way that I would want to play this game, and I would not be keeping it if it just had the tiny little unicorns. They're not fun. I mean, you could paint them, but even then, they're so tiny. And I think that this has a party atmosphere that you know, works with a bigger scale. Just one note on the cloth. As much as I will always use the cloth over the board because of its size, I really don't like the quality of the cloth. I feel like it was an afterthought. It reminds me of something you would find in an Asian street market parading as a beach towel. You know, in that like faded color, not quite contrasting enough.
And I think part of it is because everything else is so bright, and then this is just so subdued.
It's a bit weird and clashy with the rest of it. The cauldron that the coins go into is not at all user friendly for putting your hand into. So there are things that fit, and there are other things that felt like it was just a fun Kickstarter addition to the game. But certainly the coins are great.
The wood component of the
And these guys, just these guys, they're fabulous. Anyway, that's Unicorn Fever. If you liked this review and you want to hear more from us, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and tell us what you thought. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. But otherwise, bye for now and see you next time.